I love the game, I love this show, but man, getting rid of that silhouette in the intro, it's just cruel. Hello everyone and welcome back to another video on the channel, and today we're reviewing Season 2, Episode 3 of The Last of Us. And I want to preface this video by saying that I'm a massive fan of The Last of Us Part 2 game. It's my favorite game of all time, and because of that, I will be getting into spoilers for both this episode and the story moving forward inside of the game throughout the entirety of this video. This episode is the calm between storms, and because there have been some changes from the game in the last couple episodes, like dominoes, it is causing some interesting developments for us gamers inside of this episode in particular. So if you haven't played the game or watched this episode, go watch it, go play it, and let's just jump into it.
I made you cookies. Oh? Just cuz? No. This is a peace offering. Because I'm about to make you angry.
We kick off this episode in the short aftermath of Tommy and Ellie grieving Joel's death, who have two very different responses. Ellie wakes up in the hospital filled with rage, sadness, and having to relive that moment over and over and over again inside of her head. Tommy, who in the show was spared witnessing his brother's death, has a more somber and reflective moment over Joel's body inside of the morgue. We then cut to 3 months later, which brings us to the largest change from the game so far. In the game, there is no 3-month time jump. Ellie begins debating with Maria and Tommy about going after Abby immediately, and they come to the same conclusion of not wanting to send so many people when Jackson is not at its strongest. However, Tommy decides to leave anyway, giving him a head start to Seattle. This leaves Maria with a tough decision. She knows that Ellie's going to leave with or without her permission, and because Tommy went alone, she gives Ellie and Dina the supplies for their journey to hopefully catch up with Tommy to help him in his crusade for revenge and to possibly bring him home. Now, this is obviously very different from what we got inside of this episode. I think that the changes they make here make perfect sense for the show's versions of these characters. Like I mentioned, every change is like a domino knocking over the next, leaving Tommy to defend Jackson in episode 2, and having Ellie and Dina filled with the blame for what happened gives them a lot more reason to want to leave immediately. Having Dina withhold information about the wolves also made sense, so Ellie can get back into full strength before they leave on their journey. But not having Tommy go first is very interesting because that gives Ellie more direct motivations. In the game, she lets the idea of catching up to Tommy and bringing him home to Jackson be a cover for her wanting to do exactly what he is doing. She uses it to mask her own rage, and when they arrive at Seattle and she starts encountering the group that killed Joel, she unleashes that rage in extremely brutal ways. But I think the opposite can be true for this show. Will Tommy and Jesse be sent after Ellie and Dina this time around? And will they come across the path of death and destruction that Ellie leaves behind, unlike Ellie coming across Tommy's path of death and destruction inside of Seattle? I actually really like this change as it puts more focus on Ellie's rage and leaves the possibility of Dina, Tommy, and Jesse all reacting to what Ellie slowly becomes throughout this story. We do get to see the simmering anger within Bella Ramsey's performance, which I thought was fantastic. Her walking away from the hospital is the perfect example of seeing where this darker path could take this character, and I have full faith in them being able to pull off this spiraling character arc for the worst. Another change which I heard some people online complaining about was skipping the Dina and Ellie scene in Eugene's weed farm. In the game, they talk about the kiss on New Year's, about their secrets, and they end up having sex. Here in the show, they were not on patrol together at this point in the story, and so many thought we wouldn't get that, but that is very much not the case. Another benefit of the format of a TV show is we can spend more time slowly building these relationships and character dynamics rather than it's happening too fast. And I will say that I never had a problem with the relationship between them sparking immediately in the game, but I think spreading out these moments throughout Ellie and Dina's journey in Seattle is a great idea, because obviously a show is not going to be as action oriented in the game, and so you kind of want to get the character stuff over with and get right into the action inside of a game. But here we get to spend some time, we get the conversations about the kiss inside of this episode, and I think that Ellie telling Dina about her immunity is going to happen in the next episode, and they'll probably seal the deal with their relationship by the end of the season. One other massive change inside this episode is that Ellie and Dina don't seem to come across the Fedra QC in Seattle, so unfortunately I don't think we'll get the fuck Fedra gates inside of this show. Super unfortunate, but hey, we can't get everything from the game.
Okay. Let's find a way past this, fuck Fedra gate.
Very creative.
There are of course several things here that are entirely new for the show. I really like the sequence as the council deliberated over sending a group of 16 to go to Seattle. We get to see many perspectives of people both for and against this proposal, and honestly including the council a couple times this season so far adds a lot of character to the town of Jackson in general. Seeing how this town operates and how Maria leads them through both the loss of Joel but also the loss of the countless others from the horde attack in the last episode is great. I think the show has actually done a lot to build Maria and Tommy as much more likable characters characters than they were in the game, because in the game, they honestly really didn't have much to do, and especially when Tommy goes on his crusade for revenge, I think that his motivation's there, although it was strong because he was there when his brother died. I think having him have a reason to stay behind in the show because of the state of Jackson, because of his relationship with Maria, and how she is honestly kind of also against this crusade for revenge that Ellie has, and the recklessness of all that. And so I think they're doing a really great job at building these characters to make me really like them, to have more characters inside of the series to latch onto, to kind of fill the void that Pedro Pascal and Joel is going to leave after his death. And so I'm really digging what they're doing with these characters, and I think the performances between the two are great. Gale is also a character that has been added for the show, and I've really been enjoying her presence here as well. I love the conversation between her and Ellie about Joel's last conversation with them both. Ellie does lie, saying that she never had a conversation after the dance, based on context clues and also the Last of Us podcast, which I would highly recommend you listening to. We will definitely see that sequence inside of the game, but the pain of Ellie admitting that they reconciled their differences with hope for the relationship moving forward is probably just too painful to admit, and honestly, it is such a good, impactful moment at the very ending of this story, and so I'm glad that they're holding on to this piece of information till hopefully the very end. Gale also has a scene with Tommy after the council meeting, talking about Ellie's speech advocating for justice, which was another shining moment for Bella Ramsey inside of this season so far. They get into the themes of nature versus nurture in Ellie and Joel's relationship. They both know that she was lying inside of her speech, but the question is whether it was a lie in the moment or if Ellie is a liar as a person. Is she following in Joel's footsteps of rage and death, or has she always been walking beside him in those dangerous behaviors? It's great writing here, although it does do something that I heard some people criticize the first season for, and that is explaining the arcs and themes before they happen rather than the game, which just kind of lets the audience figure those things out to themselves.
If she's on a path, it's not one that Joel put her on. Yeah. No, I think they were walking side by side from the very start.
These ideas are for sure inside of the game just never spelled it out for you, and Season 1 did that a lot when talking about Joel's attachment to Ellie and what he would do for the ones that he loves. I don't mind it here because the scene is still very well written, but I think it's worth pointing out. Another thing that is new to this series is a deeper exploration of Seth's character. Inside of the game, he is simply just there to be a bigot and to make bigot sandwiches, which he does do here, but he is also one of the impassioned people advocating for Ellie's proposal to get revenge for Joel. This leads me to a few theories that I have for the show's structure for the rest of the season. Based on the previews for the next episode, it seems like we'll get to see Isaac and his cruel leadership of the Wolves, along with Ellie and Dina getting in way over their head, taking on an army. They did a good job at setting the stage for the war between the Wolves and the Seraphites in this episode as well, so I'm sure we'll see more of that inside of episode 4. We get to see a peek at the flare sequence, which is one of my favorite levels inside of the game. I definitely threw a bottle to get the clickers to kill all the wolves for me as I ran, but hey, that's just how I played the game. We also get to see Dina pointing a gun at Ellie, presumably because Ellie will get bit in front of her, and we'll get to see her trying to explain her immunity in a very tense sequence inside of this next episode, but there is also no hint at any flashbacks with Pedro Pascal or Joey Pantoliano yet as Eugene. I think episode 4 will end with Ellie and Dina realizing that they have to be much smarter when confronting the wolves and having an idea of where Nora is. Since Ellie will have been bit, it will leave her to have to explain everything that happened between her and Joel throughout season 1, along with some secrets that they have from the 5-year time jump. Episode 5 then will be a flashback episode as Ellie explains her story to Dina. We'll see the museum sequence, which will break everybody's hearts, but at least we'll get to see some Pedro Pascal. I do think that Eugene has something to do with Ellie running off to the hospital in Salt Lake City to discover the truth of what Joel did at the end of season 1, leading to Eugene's death. And maybe in this flashback episode, we'll also learn what Seth and Joel's relationship was, and why Seth would be so invested in advocating for Ellie's, quest for revenge. Episode 6 will most likely be the hospital sequence going after Nora, which is one of the darkest moments for Ellie's journey, another fantastic level inside of the game. I'm sure Tommy and Jesse will also catch up to them at this point, maybe taking on MANNY as the sniper, which would also be really fun. And episode 7 will be the aquarium, confronting Owen and Mel, which is one of the most fucked up sequences inside of the game, leading Abby to confronting Ellie, Dina, Tommy, and Jesse inside of the theater. The game left off on a massive cliffhanger as Abby kills Jesse and is about to kill Ellie before cutting to black. We then get to see Abby's perspective from Seattle during day 1, 2, and 3 of the game, before eventually getting back to the fight inside of the theater. I don't think that it'll go down this way inside of the show. I think that we will see the storyline come to a head and see Abby let Ellie go at the end of this season. This will also hint at the arc that she has gone through with Lev and Yara for us to flash back to throughout season 3. We will probably end the season on a down note as Ellie has failed to avenge Joel, and the only thing to come out of it is the loss of another friend in Jesse and the loss of her soul in her crusade for revenge. So overall, this was a slower episode of The Last of Us after the explosive one that we got last week, but I think it's a necessary one. There were many fantastic character moments here, building the relationship between Ellie and Dina, who have had excellent chemistry in this show so far. Ellie's grief being shown to be suppressed at this point is great. Loved her moments of silence at Joel's grave. Had plenty of interesting changes from the game with Tommy staying behind, which makes more sense for this version of events, and it does a great job at setting up the danger Ellie and Dina are about to walk into.
Guess there aren't that many wolves.
There's about to be a whole lot less.
But those are just going to be my thoughts on this episode. Make sure to leave a comment on your thoughts on this episode, along with your theories on where we'll go moving forward in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel to see more reviews just like this one. I will, of course, have weekly reviews out for the show, along with movie reviews. Thunderbolts is releasing next week, which I'm extremely excited to watch that movie. I'll have a review out for that on Thursday, so stay tuned for that one as well. So thanks everyone for watching, and I hope to see you all in my next one.